Hello everybody, welcome to this channel. I'm Kay. I'm very happy to see you again, or you're new to here, welcome. So in this video, it's gonna be a longer form, more of a lecture kind of style. So the title, the topic of this lecture of the day is Women and Greek Goddesses in Archetypal Psychology. So there are actually three things here, right? So the women that we're talking about in general in our lives, and then Greek goddesses. So I will be talking about seven major Greek goddesses in this particular video, and how I would relate the Greek goddesses with women would be through archetypal psychology. Okay, so that's basically the briefing of how this entire lecture is gonna go about. Now, so what would we be getting from exploring, this topic, this discussion, is that through understanding the archetypal psychology behind the relation of women to Greek goddesses as archetypes, we would come to a much better understanding when it comes to why would women behave in such ways, or why would they think in such ways, or why are women similar in certain ways? Because they are actually archetypal psychology. That is why there are certain behavioral patterns that we would see in women, such as in wives, in lovers, in certain ways that they communicate when with their children or with their husbands. Okay, so there are different behavioral patterns that we can spot, we can recognize and acknowledge, and from there we would become more understanding. We would then become more compassionate in a way, because compassion is basically understanding of something, about something or about someone. There comes compassion. That is essentially compassion. So through understanding this archetypal psychology behind the relation of women to Greek goddesses, so we're basically seeing from three perspectives, okay, like the intersection of these three subjects: women, Greek goddesses, and archetypal psychology. We would then come into forming a bigger picture of seeing the entire scenario. Okay, and then that would be you taking your own insights from this explorative discussion and topic. All right, so leave comments below if you happen to have any kind of inspired insights. So yeah, let's begin. Now, I will have this lecture divided into three parts. So the first part would be about three goddesses, Greek goddesses. The second part would be another three, and then the third part would be in Aphrodite. Okay, the beautiful, the goddess of love. All right, so the first three would be, now we're in the part one. Part one is Hera, Demeter, and Persephone. Okay, now in part two it would be Athena, Artemis, and Hestia. So now we're gonna first talk about part one, and there is a reason that I put it into part one, part two, part three, because what I'm speaking on is not just about theoretically speaking, not just theories, but also my own personal experience when it comes to such, including observation of other women, as well as how I experience within myself as a woman. So there were times that I would have certain integrations of these archetypes within myself, and I would come into realization about myself as a woman because of the archetypes that I embody. And through that, I also see into how other women behave. And that's where, that's how I generate this kind of understandings. And that's what I'm sharing here. Okay, so now let's start with Hera, Demeter, and Persephone. The reason that I put these three into part one, as in categorizing them into part one, is because this is actually, this category of women or archetype, let's put it this way, is the archetype, they are the archetypes that are very earth plane based. Hera is the archetype that represents the wife. Hera is the archetype that represents the wife, okay, like wifey material, wife. Demeter is the archetype that represents the mother, like mother, your mother, my mother, his mother, her mother, okay? Persephone is the little girl. But there's something interesting about her though, okay? But we're gonna talk about it. So Persephone, if we put it into more of a psychology, like modern psychology way of seeing it, is the inner child of a woman. So it's a girl, a little girl, okay? Persephone is the daughter of Demeter. Demeter is the mother. There's the mother, okay, the second one. So they are, mother and daughter. And for Hera, she is the wife of Zeus. Zeus, one of the three major Greek gods in Greek mythology, right? Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. All right? Now, so Persephone, the little girl, Persephone's husband is Hades. All right? So Demeter's husband is Zeus. Not necessarily it is not that like is her husband, but Persephone is basically Zeus' daughter. So Demeter has a child with Zeus, and there comes Persephone. All right. Now it does sound very chaotic, the relationships, okay, but we're not looking at their relationships, because what they're actually representing is not really about their relationships or like dramas. No, we're looking at what each of the goddess is representing when it comes to archetypes and archetypal psychology. So let's start with Hera. Hera as a wife. Now, for every kind of archetype, not even just for Hera, for every kind of archetype, they have the positive aspect of it and also the negative aspect of it. So when I speak about the positive, it would be the positive attributes. Okay. Now, when it comes to the negative, it would be the shadow side of the archetype. For Hera, her positive attributes would be a very loyal wife that she only has her eyes on Zeus. She is also very protective of her children. Okay, so basically, she's quite a wifey material in a way. However, the shadow side of Hera is jealousy, passive aggressiveness, and also aggression as well. Okay, so there are many stories about Hera and Zeus. Is that Zeus, her husband, Hera's husband, when he kind of like laid eyes on like a nymph, like beautiful nymph, okay, Hera would already be so jealous, and she would become vindictive. She would become vindictive and kind of not even playing pranks on the beautiful ladies, the nymphs. She would even kind of like really try to destroy them. Okay, so this is like the shadow side of Hera. And if we put this into context, okay, we're contextualizing it. If we put it into context in the modern world, we do see a lot of women in their marriage could kind of behave like this. So they would be, the jealousy would really come out of them and get the better of them. Okay, they become really emotional, negatively charged, and not in their rational self anymore. They would become really trying to get their husband's attention, and they would be really striving hard to keep their husband's eyes on themselves. Now, so this shadow side of Hera really comes into play. Like, what can we women learn from this? As a woman, we need to understand that our appearances could serve as a sort of attraction because of its beauty, right? But if we take beauty as what defines us, definition that defines us, our own identity, our own sense of worth, sense of self, is very dangerous. And what's more is that if we rely on how our husbands treat us, how our husbands perceive us, compliment us, only then our self-worth comes from there. Again, very dangerous. Because we're giving the key, the sense of worth, sense of self to another person, let alone saying it's just your husband, okay? It's your husband. It can be anyone. It can be even to your children, okay? If you're giving your key to somebody, that is the key. What is this key representing? Is the key to your own sense of self, your own sense of worth. This is your own sense of identity. And if you're giving it away to somebody else, what it means is that you would always have to seek for their validations for your own existence. Okay, so that is why many women, many of us, now from Greek mythology, we've already had this, okay? This is like a story representing how women would behave when they are not centered, when they don't hold the key within themselves, would then manifest in a jealous, vindictive woman. Okay, because they feel very insecure. So this is what we can learn from the Hera archetype. And that is the psychology behind Hera, is because the shadow side of her, she feels very insecure because she doesn't feel safe within her own skin, and she needs approval. She needs to feel secure only when her husband gives her such a security, such a sense of security. And that is what is it that she's depending on, is her own beauty, her appearance, her role as Zeus' wife. Like, I'm Zeus' wife. I'm the only woman that you can love. I'm the only woman that you can lay your eyes on. Now, this comes from a chasing. This feels chasing, right? You're chasing something. It feels like Hera is trying to, your mind, like, grabs it. Like, I'm trying to control you. So when it comes to this, the shadow side of Hera would also manifest in certain controlling behaviors, controlling her husband. Okay, like, you can't look at other women, stuff like that. And that is what we, as women, can also learn from this, is that it's not about how men see us. Not that men are trash. I'm not saying this, I'm not suggesting this at all. I'm simply suggesting that stand in your own power and empower yourself from within. And that security has to come from within us. And that also includes men, okay? Every single one of us, human beings, the security has to come from within. Only then we feel centered and we're not craving for approval in the external, in order to prove that I exist or I'm worth it, okay? So it takes time to learn, but it's good to refer to some mythologies and psychology-wise, to see into ourselves and uplift and grow with it, right? We can take this chance to grow with it. So that's for Hera. Now let's go to Demeter. Demeter is the mother of Persephone, right? I would actually tie their stories together, because Demeter and Persephone has a very interesting relationship. I'm gonna put it into like a long story short thing about Persephone's love story with Hades. So Hades is basically Persephone's uncle, okay? Because Hades is Zeus' brother. Zeus is Persephone's father. So Hades is Persephone's uncle, okay? But we're not talking about the relationships. We're talking about what we can learn from here. Now, Persephone is a very now, first of all, what is the they usually have different attributes, right, for each goddess, for every kind of god and goddesses. For Demeter, she is the goddess of agriculture abundance, okay, like the spring, okay? This is what Demeter is. That's why it's agriculture, harvest, good harvest. Is they would worship Demeter as a patron goddess, right? So that's for Demeter. Now, Persephone, as the daughter of Demeter, she is the goddess of like flowers, okay, like spring, very youth energy. Okay, that's Persephone. That's why she's the little girl. She's the inner child, but the girl version. Okay, the girl version of inner child in psychology. Why is the story between them are so interesting? Is because Demeter becomes so emotional when she learns about that Persephone got kidnapped by Hades into the underground, okay, into the underworld, because Hades is the king of the underworld, okay. However, I'm gonna like throw a little bit of the psychology here. Hades actually represents the unconscious mind, okay. Hades represents the unconscious mind. Poseidon is the subconscious mind, and Zeus is the conscious mind, okay. So Hades is unconscious, representing unconscious mind. All right. Now Persephone is very interesting. Persephone, at the end of the story, basically, Persephone was originally like a very light-hearted, youthful and innocent kind of a girl. Okay, a very childlike girl, very beautiful, young, okay, kind of a goddess. Now, at the end of the story, she got married with Hades. So she actually became the wife of Hades. What does it mean? She then becomes a queen. She is the queen of the underworld. Now, so it's very interesting. It's because she transforms herself from a girl to a queen, from a princess to a queen. This transformation actually symbolizes the transformation of a person by going through like inner transformation. It's the fire bath by going into the unconscious mind, the unconscious. That's why it's Hades. So she got dragged into the underworld by Hades because Hades fell in love with her. So he just kidnapped her. All right. Well, he did ask for Zeus' permission, and that's actually what Zeus suggested him to do so. But like, what a father. But it's not really about a relationship though. It's what it's talking about here when we put into the psychology aspect of it, is that the unconscious mind, it talks about how a man is, when he's in love with a woman, he sees Persephone's innocence and beauty and playfulness. He fell in love with that because Hades, he wants to seek for his inner child as well. So when he sees such a woman in her youth energy, he fell in love with that purity. Okay, with that purity. He fell in love with her purity. So he, however, is unconsciously operating all behind the scene. It's an unconscious thing that this man fell in love with Persephone. Now, what it means by he did go consult or ask for Zeus' permission, because that's his daughter, right? Persephone is Zeus' daughter. Like, can I marry your child? Like that, brother. Awkward. But no, he said yes. He said, like, what he said is really funny. The Zeus actually told Hades that, like, if you actually want to have her, like, I don't really mind, but Demeter, her mother, she might not agree, like very much likely she would not agree. So it's better if you kidnap her. That's how it kind of like how the story goes. So he did. So that's what Hades did. He literally kidnapped Persephone. And Demeter was enraged. Like, she rages, okay? She's like, she becomes like completely irrational. Yes. Well, I mean, it's quite understandable. Like, if you lost your child, your child got like missing, so it's quite understandable. No, so what happened to Demeter when Persephone got kidnapped by Hades is that she is the goddess of abundance, right? And she manages the agriculture and stuff. But because Persephone went missing, she she went irrational and she could not focus on her task. And so the entire world, the crops, the harvesting, the crops, they die. They're dying because of that. Okay, now let's take a stop here. What it is symbolizing here is that, you see, Persephone is the little girl, right? Is the daughter of Demeter as well at the same time. What it's talking about here is saying when a woman loses touch with her inner child, she becomes like how Demeter behaves. She becomes someone that is chaotic, that is not creative at all anymore. You see, because growth, fertility, crops is creativity, right? That's creativity. She's not able to create anymore. She's not able to focus. She becomes rageful. She becomes chaotic. That's when Persephone went missing, right? So this is actually what we can learn from this, is that it is so important for every one of us, including men, because man also has their own inner child, right? It's just Persephone here is talking about the girl version of the inner child. It's so important for us to be connected to our own inner child. And in this case, it would be Persephone and Demeter. So Demeter, when she learns about that Persephone is gone, kidnapped by the unconscious, she behaves in such a way, right? Now, however, let's move to the other scene, another scene, where Persephone is. Now, Persephone, now she's in the underworld, right? At first, she really rejects. She doesn't like Hades. I mean, come on. You got kidnapped. Come on. Okay, like, understandable, huh? So what happens there is that, long story short, Hades is actually a gentleman. He's quite a gentleman, to be honest. He is quite a gentleman. He's very polite. He doesn't cross boundaries. And at the very end, Persephone actually starts to like him and eventually falling in love with him, and that's why they got married in the end. Now, what this entire journey it symbolizes of Persephone, like on one side, Demeter was like searching for Persephone all over the earth, on the ground, because she's in the underworld, right? Persephone is in the underworld, but Demeter keeps searching for Persephone on the ground, earth. So, but she could not. Only after she went to Apollo, the sun god, because Apollo sees everything. Okay, that's what it says. Apollo sees everything, the sun god, and Apollo revealed to Demeter that, oh, Hades got your kid. And then Demeter was so angry, and she ragefully stormed into the underworld, stuff like that, okay, just to retrieve Persephone. But let's put that aside first. Let's go back to Persephone. While her mother was like chaotic, so chaotic, what Persephone went through, though, she went through an entire inner transformation. If we put it into a psychological context of a person, she came to terms with the unconscious mind. That is what Hades is representing here. She is not afraid. She confronts her fear in the unconscious mind. And that's how she transforms herself from a girl to a queen of the underworld. What it means is that she conquers her fear. She conquers her own fear by healing herself, seeing into them, learning about them, and eventually falling in love with herself. Like, symbolically speaking, it is Hades, yet it is true, but Hades here is actually representing the unconscious mind. So Persephone went through a fire bath. Basically is a kind of like a inner transformation, and she came out on the other side. So this transformation was basically done, and when she chooses to eat I think it's a pomegranate, the fruit, okay, that Hades gives to her, that as a parting gift, because by the time Demeter arrives, and she's here like, I'm here to get my kid back. Oh, I'm here to get my daughter. Why did you kidnap her? Like that. And so Persephone already ate that fruit. So the legend has it, like saying, the story goes like, if anyone eats anything from the underworld, you take anything, basically, if you take anything, you consume anything from the underworld, you are now a part of the underworld. So that's why Persephone became the queen of the underworld, and she basically spends, I think it's like 1/4 of the year would be 1/3 or 1/4. 1/4 of the year, because of the 4 seasons. 1/4 of the years she would go into the underworld to unite with Hades. So that would be actually winter. Okay, and for the rest of the seasons, she would be on the ground, reunite with her mother. That's spring. Okay, that's what it says. Like, that's how Demeter would not work in the winter, because Persephone is gone. And when Persephone returns to the ground, Demeter is happy again, and so then she works. That's where spring is. Okay, so like the spring, summer, autumn, and winter, Persephone goes into the underworld. So what we can learn from here is that the importance of inner child. A woman, when she becomes a mother, which is Demeter, even when in the mother archetype, the mother role, it's important to understand there's always that little girl inside you, inside every one of us. And without this inner child connecting with her, it can be very dry and dull and uninspired. So, and also Persephone, what we can learn from Persephone is that she went through a transformation from a girl to a very brave and strong queen of the underworld. She went through something her mother possibly did not go through, Demeter. Okay, like Persephone did not cry or anything. She was absolutely headstrong into confronting any kind of unconscious fear in herself, and that's the birth of a queen. It means the meaning of the queen of the underworld basically is she is now in control of her own self. She is in control of herself. That's why she becomes the queen of the underworld. She becomes the queen of the unconscious mind, her own unconscious mind. Okay. Now let's wrap the part 1 up, like what it is. As the mother, the wife, the daughter. These 3 archetypes, they are the most commonly seen in women. Because it is kind of like a progress of how women, from a little girl and then to a wife, Hera, and then to Demeter. They are the fundamental set up kind of archetypes for women to embody, fundamentally speaking. Now, when a soul becomes more mature, or when a woman becomes more mature, they would gradually start to embody the qualities of the second part, that the goddesses in the second part. So that would be Athena, Artemis, and Hestia. So what I'm talking about is this is transition from the earthly roles of being a woman, a daughter, a mother, a wife. These kind of earthly roles of a woman would slowly, as the woman matures, grow into what I mean by the maturity is inner maturity. Okay, spiritually speaking, this kind of maturity. Okay, not talking about physical, because Hera, Demeter, and Persephone is more or less about the physical level of it. Okay, physical and also a little bit of a psychological aspect of it. But when it comes to the transitioning of maturing of a woman, transitioning from the part 1 and to the part 2, so that would be Athena, Artemis, and Hestia. This is more of on a soul level, and also on a spiritual level, and also psychologically speaking. Okay, so now we're going into the part 2. Part 2 is that these 3 goddesses, you would see them, they're being called virgin goddesses, and the reason is that they don't have a husband. That's basically it. So that also reminds me kind of Virgin Mary in Christianity. The reason that she is being called Virgin Mary, to me, I don't actually see it as something. They don't call her Virgin Mary because she has never ever had any kind of intercourse. I don't see it this way. I actually see it as a symbolic meaning, representation of her purity, and also that she's independent. Because as referring to this, Athena, Artemis, and Hestia, they represent independence and autonomy of a woman. It is that part of the psyche of a woman gets developed, and it's about independence. Not in the feminist way, not into going against other people's way. Okay, it's more of becoming more of the self, coming back to oneself. This kind of maturity. So Athena, Artemis, Hestia. Let me give it a brief profile for each of them. Athena is the goddess of war, but she plays defense. She doesn't really fight, like attack. She plays defense. Okay, that's her strength. Athena is also the goddess of craft, weaving things, and pottery, craft. She's also the goddess of wisdom and strategy. So she somehow behaves more like she's beautiful in her own way. She's very beautiful in her own way, but she's more of an intellectual woman than the earthly roles. Okay, Hera, Demeter, Persephone, she focuses more on studies, on self-actualization. Okay, and so are for Artemis and Hestia. Okay, it's the same, because these three archetypes, they are independent and very dependent on themselves. They don't rely on other people. Okay, so that would be for Athena, right? Now, Artemis is the goddess of she's a huntress. She's a huntress. Okay, she's a huntress. She's the goddess of the, I think it's goddess of the wild, like the wilderness. She always wanders with her group of girls, like nymphs, in the forest, and also with the wolves. Okay, with the wolves. She is a discoverer. A discoverer. Yeah, she's a traveler. She discovers new things, and she's very courageous, and fearless in a way. I mean, Athena, it works well with men. Artemis doesn't really, because she's kind of like a wild card in a way. But Athena is more stable and kind of like, I was gonna say not really like government, but she's more diplomatic. Yeah, she's more diplomatic. Yeah. So for Artemis, she's more of she's the young version of Athena, because she does also travel a lot. She does she fights. She's a huntress, right? But she's more in a youthful version of Athena. And for Hestia, she's the goddess of fire in a way. Fire. Why? The goddess of fire is because, like the goddess of fire, it means warmth, home, a very nurturing. It's like the grandma. It's a grandma energy. It's like grandma cooks for you. Okay, grandma knits a sweater for you. Grandma makes the bed for you. It's this kind of energy. Like if you go into someone's place and you feel very nurtured and like you feel so relaxed, and you just love the vibe. Okay, and this feels Hestia. Okay, in a way, that's how it feels, like the Hestia energy. So these three. Now Hestia is a grandma kind of thing. She's crone energy, crone, crone energy, wise old woman. So that would be possibly like the older version of Athena. Okay, so when Athena, Artemis, and Hestia, in their shadow side, what I talked about was their positive attributes, right? But when they're in the shadow side, it would be they are very disconnected with their surroundings, and they could be now for Athena, when she's in the positive, in the upright, okay, in the positive light, she would be diplomatic, she would be understanding, and also she works, but in balance. She works well with men. She is also very good at playing defense in war. What does it mean? It means that she will not really attack other people. Even though other people attacked her, she does not really do it in an aggressive way to fight back. She plays it in a way that is trying to include, but also not hurting herself. Okay, so that's actually strategy. What it means is that this person, if a woman embodies this energy, is that this woman, like what we can learn from this, right? What we all can learn from this is that this woman is very secure in her own self, that she knows that she's safe. That's very important, because she's the goddess of war, right? War it feels very unsafe, right? But when she's centered, she feels safe within herself. So she would not be triggered easily. She would be rational with her own emotions in a way. She would be willing to listen, but also she would be willing to listen, but also make very good judgments with discernment and not swayed by emotions. So you can see this kind of women in our modern day world. They could be, if manifested in a positive way, they could be very good leaders in corporate context. They are very emotionally stable, and they are very good at communication, public relations. Okay, this would be the archetype manifesting in women, okay, which you would see. However, when manifested in the shadow side, Athena, a woman could become very extreme in her game, in her tactics. She would not be defensive, like not playing the defense game, but become defensive. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, she becomes defensive, meaning she could be so Athena in the positive light would be setting healthy boundaries, but if in the shadow side, it would be putting up boundaries in order to reject other people when feeling triggered. Okay, so there's a difference here, because when setting boundaries healthily, it is actually to form a system for efficiency purposes. So this is thinking in a very rational way. Not swayed by because no emotions will be triggered. So it couldn't even be swayed by emotions. The decisions are made for system efficiency, not because of hurting. Now, if in the shadow side, it could become manifested into hurting, and so to cause certain decisions made in an abrupt and violent way. That would be the shadow side of Athena. Like decisions made due to emotional causes. And these women could also be workaholics. They don't really like to cooperate with men. They might even have certain hatred towards men. So this could be an extreme version of it when manifested, because these women would be very they would advocate a lot of women independence, autonomy, but these kind of words behind, or the mindset behind, would be mainly related to going against patriarchy or man. Okay, in a way, it's because the cause is to go against something. That would be more or less in the shadow side, because you this is not defense, this is attack. If you're trying to go against something, right, anything, it is a form of attack, be it in a verbal way, be it in a physical way. It is an attack, a form of attack. But when it's a defense, it's simply setting healthy boundaries to refine system efficiency. but not to go against anything. It's very stable. You feel that? It's a very stable thing. It is a very coming together thing. Like I do it for myself. I'm not actually trying to chase you away, or like I'm trying to point you out, or like call you out. It's not like this. It's not like this. So that would be for Athena. For Artemis, she, when she's in the positive light, she includes a lot of women. This is kind of like, it reminds me of how a woman, woman supports woman, like girl supports girl kind of feeling. It's like being protective of other women in a good way though. Okay, in a good way though. It's kind of like sister love. That's what it is. That's how Artemis is. She protects the other women in a sister way. So this is kind of like, if we see in the modern world context, they would be the ones possibly running clubs, or like they would be the ones kind of like hosting parties to include other girls, to include other women, right? And she's also very brave to speak up for other people. They would be also the ones who start a project. They would be the ones who are, initiate any kind of programs, events to bring people together. Okay, so these, and they would also like to be involved in many kind of social activities to make new connections, because it's traveling, right? It's discovering new things. That's Artemis energy. So that would be in the positive light. But when it's in the shadow side, Artemis could be quite ruthless, especially towards men. Because there was one story, was about how there was a man who just literally just walked past the lake where Artemis and her fellow nymphs are having a shower. A shower? No, not a shower, like a bath, okay? Like a bath. Lake bath. And there's no shower. So then the man actually saw them not wearing anything because they are taking a bath, right? So what happened was that Artemis got so angry, and she literally turned the man. She spit on the man. If I didn't remember it wrong, but it's something not nice, basically. She spit on the man, and the man turned into a creature, something. And she literally like hurried him away. But it's not him anymore. It's not a man anymore. She turned him into something to humiliate him. So this could be a bully energy. You see, there's a bullying energy. When a woman is in the shadow side of Artemis, she has the power, the girl's power. But if she doesn't use it right, it could turn into bullying energy. And this, we can see this manifested in a lot of school settings, high school, primary school. There are women who have this archetypal energy within them, that they can group girls together. They're like the leader of the girls group, a clique, right? So if they don't lead properly, it could turn into bullying other people. So it's important to notice this within oneself. Do I have this? Or some people that I know, they might actually have this. And that's how we can, dodge a bullet. Or we can look within ourselves and see, okay, how can I transmute that? How can I transmute it and turn it from the shadow side to the positive attribute, which is being protective, to be inclusive, hosting events to bring people together, and not to go against anybody, but to set healthy boundaries. Okay, it is to learn how to be more centered within oneself. That is Artemis. Now Hestia is the grandma kind of love, grandma kind of independence. She lives alone, but she's not bored at all. You know what I'm saying? She lives alone, but she has a lot of things to do. She goes into her garden. She cooks something. She knits. She plays with the cat. She cleans her house. She makes her room pretty. She makes her home welcoming. That's the energy of Hestia. Independence, not chasing, having a very strong rooted sense of self, and nurturing oneself with good food, nourishing food, a very clean space for oneself to live in. This is the positive side of Hestia. And this is what we all can learn from her, this archetype, that is to make oneself comfortable, right? To pamper oneself, to love oneself, to cook food for oneself, to clean the rooms, do the laundry for oneself, because I want to feel fresh, right? In fresh clothes, fresh entire atmosphere, put on some music, things like this. So it's to make oneself feeling comfortable and loved. In the shadow side would be a person or woman not taking good care of herself enough, not focusing on her own needs, making herself feel comfortable, and also when she's not taking care of herself enough, she is very much likely not able to take care of other people. Okay, so when one is able to take care of herself, she would then be able to take good care of other people at the same time. It is a balance, right? But when this balance is off, she would be treating herself unfairly. And that would go the same for the people around her. Be it her husband. I mean, if it's in the modern, our everyday life context, it could be her family, her children. She would not be attentive enough because she's not even attentive to herself. She would not be patient. She could be very explosive in a way, because you see, grandmas are very patient. Okay, so if a woman doesn't feel comfortable, it's very easy for her to get explosive, huh? Especially the time of the month, huh? You know what I'm saying? So, so yeah. So that's what it is. That's what we can learn from these three goddesses. They symbolize independence, having a quality of leadership and protecting other people, especially children and other women. They are also very in tune with themselves, brave, know what one needs, oneself, and they fulfill the needs by themselves. Okay, so this is what we can learn from these three goddesses. While in many cases in society right now, we can see a lot of women either reside in the workaholic setting, workaholic archetype of Athena, or in the feminist side, to go against patriarchy. Now, I'm not against feminist nor patriarchy or anything. I'm just stating what I observe, okay? I'm not against anyone here. I totally respect whatever anyone does. It's just that I personally choose balance for almost everything, I would say. Yeah, for everything. So that's why I would simply state of this as observations only, not judgment at all. So feminist would be one kind of an archetype that I see, archetypal manifestation of a blend of Artemis and Athena, because Artemis is quite violent in a way, like rebuttal, like bullying energy in a sense. So it's to go against something very intensely. And this is quite prevalent in this day and age, that we see certain women would embody such an energy. In workplace context, in the family-wise, in family setting, it would be Hestia. Being quite impatient and explosive. And not being able to make oneself comfortable nor the home. So if a woman is a homemaker, then this woman is very likely a Hestia, having the Hestia energy in her. Okay, like a homemaker, a beautiful wife, like a homemaker. Okay, they're so good at managing the home affairs. So this would, and making the home very comfortable and welcoming. Okay, inviting guests over. This would be a very good, positive manifestation of Hestia and Artemis. To include other people, having parties. Right. Okay. So that's what it is for part 2. Now, let's go into part 3. Part 3 only has one goddess. We're going to talk about one, because it's the last one. Do you still remember who that is? You still remember that? It's the goddess of love. That's Aphrodite. Aphrodite. In Roman is Venus. Okay, the birth of Venus. Aphrodite. So Aphrodite is in Greek. Okay, in Greek mythology. Aphrodite. Why do I put her in the last? This is a very interesting goddess. She can be very jealous. She can be so jealous. You've heard, I'm not sure, have you ever heard about any of her stories? But she can be super jealous and play pranks, and also she can be super gossips. Okay. And I'm going to talk about why. Okay, it's very interesting in a psychological context. Okay, from a psychological approach to seeing this behavior. Aphrodite, when in the shadow side, would embody such behaviors. What I just mentioned, gossip, pranks, being a little bit vindictive, and also very jealous of other people, of other women. Whoever is more prettier than her. It's like Snow White's mom, Snow White's the queen. Snow White's mom, who is prettier than me? Mirror, like that. That's how Aphrodite is kind of like. It feels like no one can be prettier than me. No one. So Aphrodite, when in the shadow side, behaves in such a way, and also she's very alluring, right? She's very sexy. That's very Aphrodite in the shadow side, though. That's how I personally perceive this. When Aphrodite is in the shadow side, now we're going to the psychological part, psychologically speaking. When Aphrodite is in the shadow side, she would become the anima, referring to Jungian psychology, Carl Jung, okay? She becomes the anima in man, such as embodying qualities of like a sexy symbol, like Marilyn Monroe, okay? And also she, just as an example, not that I'm not saying that Marilyn Monroe was operating in Aphrodite in the shadow side. I'm talking about like a sexy symbol, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. For men, because the men adored her because of her appearance. Okay? That's the anima. That's the anima in man. How they perceive a woman in such a way. Like the image of a sexy woman like Marilyn Monroe. Psychologically, that is actually the anima. The man projected their anima onto Marilyn Monroe. Okay, that's why she became the the kind of like the sexy goddess. Okay, in that era, that's what it is. So when in the shadow side, this Aphrodite energy becomes would manifest in women, in girls, even ladies. They become so attractive that the man would be sexually attracted to them. Okay, not that is good or bad. It's just that what I'm saying is this kind of attraction is because this woman, when embodying the shadow side of Aphrodite, she would appear a little bit promiscuous. Okay, promiscuous. That's very important. That's the shadow side. Not when in the positive side, she would also attract in a lot of men, even women, both. But it's not that she puts herself out there in a way that like, look at me, like that. Not in this way. What I'm talking about the shadow side is that she would want attention using her beauty, using her body, using her appearance. Okay, that's the shadow side. So that would be the anima in man, right? But also at the same time, Aphrodite in the shadow side, besides becoming the anima in man, it would also manifest as the animus in women. Animus in women. Animus is, I'm referring to Jungian psychology again, okay? What does it mean? Jealousy. When the animus is, the unhealthy animus is activated in a woman, it becomes gossips, jealousy. Why? Because the animus is basically the masculine side of a woman, the masculine energy of a woman, in a woman, okay? So when a woman is in her animus in a negative way, her masculine energy is being activated to attack, okay? So this masculine energy, you see, masculine energy is more about strategy, tactics, right? Things like this, the intellectual. And when a woman embodies such an energy, but in the shadow side, it becomes strategizing. And that means gossiping. Gossiping is the shadow aspect of using your intellect in such a way, right? You're trying to set someone up through gossiping, or even actually putting out certain schemes to trap someone, right? To sabotage another person. That is strategies, that's tactics, that's the masculine side, that's the intellectual side. So this is when the animus in a woman gets activated in an unhealthy way, would then also be the shadow side of Aphrodite. So what is the positive side then? The positive side of Aphrodite is actually unconditional love. Unconditional love to all. When in the shadow side is conditional love. That is why I put Aphrodite at the very end of it, the part 3. Because a woman goes through from the earthly roles, the part 1, Hera, Demeter and Persephone, right? The earthly roles, to independence, bravery, and autonomy, right? That would be Athena, Artemis, and Hestia. And then from there, they evolve even more towards unconditional love. That's Aphrodite. It is a progress of how a woman transforms from identities to inclusivity, including all other beings, all other people in her life. And that is the ultimate form, positive form of Aphrodite as the goddess of love, is unconditional love. So I'm gonna wrap this entire lecture with a story of Aphrodite, the birth of Aphrodite, basically the birth of Venus, right? How was Aphrodite born? And then the story actually can tell us all about something. Why, how I perceive Aphrodite as, when in the shadow side, she is the anima in man and the animus in woman. So share with me your take on this after listening to this story. So how Aphrodite comes into existence is she is born out of the sea, the ocean. But before that, actually, she is actually a part of Uranus genital, okay? The thing is, the story started as this. Gaia. So basically it's like Earth, Gaia. Gaia is the wife to Uranus. So Uranus and Gaia have like quite a few children, okay? And over time, because Gaia has a lot of kids now, she has to take care of them, okay? Uranus feels left out, okay? That's quite similar, right, to modern day society. When a woman gives birth to her children, she focuses on taking care of the children, and the man, the husband, feels neglected, okay, not loved by his wife, because the wife focuses on the children now. So the man then feels insecure, and the man starts to not liking the children, and the man also starts to having certain attacks on the wife because he feels unloved. But this all comes from the inner insecurity of the man as relating to his own mother. Okay? It's very important, very interesting as well. So in a way, we can see it as how the man, the husband, is actually, a rivalry against his own children, because he wants a piece of love from his wife, but the wife is not able to give him that. Now that also this is a mutual thing. This is how I see it, as like in marriage, the woman, besides being a mother, like, please understand that, like, this is how I personally see. Please understand that your husband comes first. No, wait, you come first as a woman. You come first because you need to take good care of yourself. Only then you can take good care of other people, right? So it's a mutual. It has to be a balanced thing. So take good care of yourself first. You are a priority. Second thing, husband. Because without a husband, you will not have children. So, all right, this is kind of like the fundamental of things. And then the third, children. So don't neglect your husband. That's how I personally perceive it. I'm not saying that everybody has to be like that, but that's how I see it. All right. So then as a whole unit, that's the family. Okay. Put yourself first. Take good care of yourself. Everybody, not even just to women, to men as well. Take good care of yourself. So now the story goes on is that Uranus feeling left out, and he's starting to attack on Gaia in a way. Okay. Now, Gaia asks for help. Who? Okay. Gaia asks for her children's help. Rescue her in a way. Now, out of all the children, only one actually came to rescue. And that kid is Chronos. Okay. Chronos basically means time. That's why we say chronologically, right? Chronology, that's time. It basically means time, chronos. Now, what does it mean here? This is all my own personal perception, okay? My own personal interpretation. You can have your own take on it, okay? So, time basically means the masculine energy. Time is the masculine energy. Time is the white color white. Black is feminine. Okay, so time is the white energy. Time is, if we link a little bit to Hinduism, is Shiva, that energy. Okay, so Gaia is basically Shakti, the feminine energy in this case scenario. Now she gives birth to all the children, and one of them is Chronos. Chronos is time. That's her son, one of her sons. This son comes to her rescue, and what he did is that when Uranus, that's his own father, was asleep, he cut off his and throw it into the sea, the ocean. And with all the the sperm, the semen got mixed up and stuff there in the ocean. That's the birth of Aphrodite. Wow, what a scene. What a scene. Oh my god. So what this means, if we can interpret it in a symbolic way, the ocean basically symbolizes subconscious mind. Poseidon, right? In Greek mythology, Poseidon is the goddess of the sea, of the ocean. So basically, how I see it is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind. So, and if you go deeper into the sea, that's the unconscious. It's dark. Okay, so Aphrodite actually came out of the sea. The subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. The subconscious mind and the unconscious mind of a man. in a man. So that's why I said it's the anima in man. It's a woman. It's anima, right? So what it means is that if we see from the other side, when it comes to Aphrodite, why is it Chronos? Why is it a sun? Why is it time? It means that Gaia, the wife, shifts into her animus. When a woman is in her animus side, the man, the husband, feels neglected. This is the same in our society right now. When a woman is in her animus energy, she becomes irrational. She becomes irrational with her own emotion. That's what I'm trying to say. She becomes calculating, very calculative. She becomes gossipy. She becomes vengeful, okay? Tactics. And she stops being caring. She stops receiving. She stops listening to her own husband. That's how her husband, Gaia's husband, also feels neglected because of that. And so, Chronos basically symbolizes the animus of Gaia. The sun is a sun. It's a he. So that's the masculine side of Gaia. She shifts into this part of herself, her own psyche, and she operates like a man. And she cuts, literally, kind of, symbolically speaking, she cuts her own husband off. What does it mean? It means the husband is not attracted to her anymore. Because that is how, a woman and a man come into union feeling as one. And so when she cuts that off, basically means the man would not be attracted to her anymore. Even if they are still husband and wife in name. Very interesting story, I would say. And also, lastly, we can also see from another perspective as Gaia being a mother figure, that because she is a mother, right? She is a mother. She cuts off her husband's. This is also symbolizing how men become hateful towards the mother. That forms not only Aphrodite, the anima in men, but also the mother complex in psychology. That's when men really dislike their mother. May not be on the surface that you can see, but it's something that accumulates over time. Because the mother operates in her animus energy, controlling, passive aggressive, calculative. Okay, all this gossiping, not caring, as in, I'm not talking about giving you food. It's as in emotionally, they're not caring. They don't want to listen to you. If I say no, it's a no. If I say yes, you gotta do it. These kind of feelings. So this makes a man, this would cause a man to feel very insecure when it comes to women. They don't feel loved since childhood. And that's how Aphrodite is also born out of that. Because you see, for every man, their mother is their goddess and their father is the god. For every child, not even for every man. What I'm talking about, like man, human. For every human, we see the mother as the goddess when we're young. and also the father as the god. But it's only later in life we've learned that they are also with a lot of flaws, and we start to see that they are not as perfect as what we thought. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture and the contents and the insights that you have generated by listening to this. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And if you have any other thoughts, any other insights, please feel free to comment below. I would love to read them. So thank you so much for your support, your patience, and your time. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.